Well, welcome to today's webinar, everybody, exploring the top agent asked questions about Korea. This webinar is brought to you by Baxter Media and Korea Tourism Organization. Our presenters today are Randy Snape, the Assistant Director at Korea Tourism Organization, Canada, and Emily Chan, Marketing Specialist with Korea Tourism Organization. We're so glad to have them here. And I'm your host, Zephan McMillan, Virtual Events Coordinator at Baxter Media. And today is Thursday, November 24th. Randy will be answering your questions throughout the webinar, so feel free to type your questions into the Q&A section of the public chat box, which is located to the right-hand side of your screen. You should see it right beside your chat box there, the Q&A section. So feel free to ask any of your questions to Randy there, and we will get to them throughout the webinar along with the top agent ask questions. So please note the $10 gift card prize, which we're really excited about, will be given to the first 100 registrants who attend for the full webinar. So stay with us, folks. Randy's team will be contacting you by email over the next few weeks to arrange your prize. And remember, this is a live session, so your patience is appreciated during any technical difficulties that may arise. And the webinar will be recorded, as I mentioned, and the recording link will be sent to you to all registrants within about 24 hours. So you should have it tomorrow. And with that, without further ado, I'm going to hand things over to Randy. So take it away.
Well, Zephan, thanks very much. I really appreciate that. So as Zephan was saying, yes, we do have $10 gift cards for everybody who has registered. That is registered, the first 100 registered and are attending today. A lot of people are asking, how many participants are we? That's a good question. We do have a fair number of people that registered. That does not mean that they've actually attended as of yet. You need to attend the full webinar to be eligible for that $10 gift card. And that's just a little incentive so we can buy a coffee to say thanks for coming out today. We really appreciate it. So what we've done for today is something a little bit different. We've done this a couple of times over the years, and as things change for Korea, we like to bring it up now and again. And that is top agent ask questions about Korea. Now, I want to bring Emily in on this one because Emily, I'm not the one that came up with these questions. You are. Where did you get these questions?
I think we come up all these questions from like our trade shows and also like for our previous webinars, and that's why we think it's the best questions for us to cover it in the webinar. So everyone, you may see me myself muting like from time to time because Randy and I are sitting next to each other, and that's why I need to mute myself so that there won't be any echo.
So that's right. We've got these coming from a little bit of everywhere. So some of these questions have come from trade shows, I'm assuming. Some of these have come from agent questions that we've received through email. Some of them might be from our dinner presentation evenings, a little bit of everywhere. And so that's a really important one for today because we want to make sure that you know that your questions are being looked at, they are being reviewed carefully, and if it comes up enough, we'll cover them in a webinar like today. We want to make sure that you have every tool that you that is needed in order to sell Korea as a destination. So here we go. We're going to start with our very first question for today. This is a really important one.
So, Rainy, go ahead. Yeah. What is the latest entry requirement to enter Korea? I think this is the most common one we get like through our office phone or like emails because people are asking like, oh, should I get the PCR test or like, do I need vaccination status to get into Korea now? So, what's the answer for this one?
This is a question that comes up quite a bit. That's right, Emily. And this is a common one and a very confusing one because it changes all the time. So here is your one-stop source of information for today. The answer is there aren't any. Well, not in the technicality sense that we were originally talking about when we first entered. We talked about needing certain types of vaccines and certain number of vaccines and number of days apart, etc. Now, Korea is vaccine-free entry. And what I mean by that is there is no proof of vaccination required in order to travel to Korea. That's important step number one for this one. Another thing that you will need, of course, is people are asking about testing. Is testing required? Testing is not required to enter Korea any longer. So there's no arrival testing. There's no pre-departure testing. There's no day 7 testing. There's no 3+2. There's plain and simply no testing, most important, and no vaccination status. We do not check into that. Two things that we do check into, and these will be permanent changes moving forward. The first one is what we refer to as a KETA. And so we get a lot of questions from agents asking, do I need a visa? It's kind of like a visa, but not really. It's more like an arrival card, but you fill it out online. So it's called a KETA. And big tip for all of those travel agents out there that are looking for the official website. They make sure that your official website ends in .go.kr. Anytime that anything finishes in .kr, it usually means that this is an official government website. There are some US websites out there that will charge you up to $130 just to complete a KETA. The actual cost of this is about 10 bucks Canadian, 12 between 10 and $12 Canadian depending on the exchange rate. About $11 US I think is the last amount that I paid. So this is just like an arrival card. It takes about 5 minutes to complete it. You can do it on behalf of your client if you want. Again, very, very simple to complete. Next one that you're going to need is something called the Q code. This is a really important one. This is pretty much your health declaration form. There's no cost to complete this. And if you do a quick Google search for Q code, there is no cost. Again, key here, no cost. KETA, there's a cost. Q code, no cost. Cost of the KETA, roughly $10. Cost of the Q code, again, about $0. This is really important. Remember those costs because you don't want to be had when you're shopping online. That's very important, especially for our US counterparts that are out there. Good luck tomorrow in your big Black Friday sales. So Q code is your health declaration form. Again, you're just looking to declare that you have no symptoms of COVID-19. Again, they're also looking for other communicable diseases. So you want to make sure that you complete this. Both of these should be done about 3-4 days prior to departure. However, the KETA can be done as early as the time that you receive your ticket. So if you've got a ticket already for next summer, go ahead, go out there and complete your KETA. Get things done quickly.
Okay, so we got some questions in our Q&A section, and Mona have a question like, I have clients connecting through Incheon in March and have 12 hours. Can they leave and do a day tour?
That's a great question. Absolutely. Yes, you can leave the airport. There is no testing required for that. But remember that you're going to need a KETA completed in order to do so because of the fact that you're entering the country. If you don't leave the airport, you're not leaving or you're not entering the country. But if you do leave the airport, you are entering the country and therefore you need to complete all the entry requirements. So that's an excellent question. I'm glad you asked that. It doesn't matter if it's for 1 hour, for 5 hours, for 3 days. The entry requirements for all of those time periods are all the same. Really, really good question.
And the follow-up question for that one will be like, will the tour running again in 2023? And yes, the tour will be resumed in 2023, but we don't have an actual timeline right now. So if we get any news from the Incheon airport, and we will for sure send everything to our partners as well. So please keep posted on this one. Yeah. And we
do see a question here from Christina. This is an interesting one. I have a family of 3 that left Toronto on November 20th, denied boarding on ACA due to an e-visa. I'm not sure what an e-visa is. QR not recognized. See, that sounds to me like something that they did online, not through the official KETA website, based on the fact that it says e-visa. Korea, there is no visa required for Canadian and American passport holders. This is simply a entry. So if there's an issue with it, maybe they didn't have theirs printed. Could be number one is what I'm thinking. But again, when you complete your KETA on time, what will happen is 2 steps. The first thing that you're going to receive is an email. Congratulations on completing your KETA. What they mean by that is they've confirmed that you have completed it. The next one is an actual QR code that states that you have completed the process, and here's the QR code that they request that you print. Now, some airlines, and I have a feeling this might be what Christina is referring to, request that you have a printed copy of said e-visa, the way that this is worded here, but actually what I think they're referring to is the KETA. They request that you print it. I recommend, because of the airlines, that you print both the KETA and the Q code. This is a safety measure for your clients, so we don't have the same thing that happened with Christina happen to her clients. You want to make sure that you print these. This is really, really important. Now, again, that is a airline requirement. That is not a government of Korea requirement for entry. You find a lot of people upon entry, when they do pull out their KETA to show it to the immigration officers, they are pulling it up on their cell phones. So this, I truly think, is an airline requirement. But again, I don't know the details of what's happened with that particular case.
Okay, and we got another question from Jimmy. Is it sure that passenger in transit so more than 4 hours can go on a city tour? So basically for the transit tours, it ranges from like 1 hour to 5 hours, and it really depends on how many time you got to layover in the airport. So for our recommendation is always like make sure you have 1.5 hour before the tour and then 1.5 hour after the tour, because you don't want your clients to miss the flight. And that's why if you have like 4 hours staying in the airport, maybe you can do a 1 hour tour in 2023. But you can take a look on those brochures sent by the airport later on and see if that fits your schedule or itinerary.
Exactly. And so those will be restarting as of January of 2023, the transit tours. That's the expectation anyway. So if you're looking for more information about the itineraries that they'll be using, etc., I recommend that you go to the Incheon International Airport's website. Just do a quick Google search. Incheon International Airport's website, one of the tabs at the top will say transit tours, and you go from there. We do have another question here. Where do I go to fill out the Q code? Again, very simply, just go to google.ca, google.com, one of the two, and type in Q code Korea. That's all you need. The first one that show up, it'll end in .go.kr. That KR is the key, and you know it's an official government website. Helen has a question. So do I understand you don't need Q code when you are transiting to connect to your final destination? If you are transiting, and I want to be very clear about this, if you are transiting, that means that you are not leaving the airport. Because you are not leaving the airport, you are not entering the country. Because you are not entering the country, you do not need to complete the Q code. You do not need to complete the KETA. I hope that's clear for everybody there. That is because you are not entering the country. If you enter the country, so even if you want to do a 1 hour transit tour, the fact that you have entered the country, both of these now apply. That's the simplest way to explain it.
Our next question.
Yes. So moving on to the next question. I think this is one of the most common one. Like no matter it's for travel agents or like consumers, is when is the best time to travel to Korea?
Yeah, I get this one from media. I get this one from travel agents. I get this one from consumers all the time. They're looking to try and, for consumers, they're usually looking to try and line it up with their time of travel. So, oh, I can only travel in summer because I'm a teacher. I wonder if it's too hot. I wonder if it's too cold. Is that a good time of year to travel, et cetera, et cetera? Well, here's one of the best things about Korea. It truly is a four seasons destination. Uh, I guess it depends on where you're joining us from, Canada today or from the United States today. You've got a variety of different seasons. I mean, if you're from up north, you might only have maybe 4 months of summer and 6 months of winter, so to speak, and then a month of each spring and fall. But it all depends on where you're from. Korea truly has four very evenly divided seasons, and I think that's really important. You get those nice, crisp, clean falls that Korea is still in right now, but of very similar temperatures to what we're receiving in most parts of North America. Again, I want to consider those crisp, clean falls, not so much in the pollution front, although you do see it from time to time. It's great to be up in the mountains. You can see for miles and miles on end, which makes it really, really nice. You get the changing of the leaves that comes with it. So it's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's not humid. And then you get into your winters, again, very crisp, very clean. I find it more of a damp winter, but it depends on where you are. I do find it fairly damp, and you do get a fair amount of snow in the provinces, which is really great outside of Seoul. Inside of Seoul, I don't think I've ever seen a snow plow. So it's a great place to go and travel, especially when it comes to the winter. People ask about low season, kind of fits into seasons here. And so low seasons typically for Korea are from the North American market only, mind you, are your October, Novembers, part of December, again, shoulder season there. You got to be careful depending on whether you're talking about Christmas or not. And then again, January and part of February. You want to avoid, of course, the Lunar New Year. That's a good one. It's a great time to be in Seoul, but it's not a great time to be traveling throughout Korea. In Seoul, it's great simply because the capital empties out. Everybody's not from Seoul, they're from the provinces, so they all go home. And so it's really hard to get a train ticket to get out of the main capital. But when you're staying in the capital, most of your palaces are still open, so it's really, really good. Then we have our spring cherry blossoms. We have a lot of festivals that take place. Weather really starting to warm up. It's, again, no rainy seasons there either. It's really, really a great time to be in Korea for that. One of my favorites. And then, of course, summer. Summer can be very hot. But again, that's for me as a Canadian. If you're from anywhere in the southeast or southwest, anywhere south, I want to say for that matter, especially from the US, you're going to find this to be a very mild summer. So this is great if you really like the hot and the humid. But again, It all depends on what type of seasons you're looking for. But there's lots of things you can do in the summer too. Korea truly is an adventure destination with so much to do. Everything from snorkeling. Yes, you can go scuba diving in Korea too. Paragliding. You've got hiking. You've got skiing. You've got even surfing that has become a thing in Korea as of late. So there is so much to do all across every season. It really is a four seasons destination. I do have one question here. Does the tourism department have any fam trips for travel agents? You know what? I think that will be covered in a little bit. Let's move forward.
And for the third question, usually I get this question like, is Korea safe from millennials because they are like more tend to travel individually or do the adventure on themselves? So is Korea safe, Randy?
So I'm going to give you a couple different questions and answers for this one that have come up over the years for me. So first one is personal safety, being mugged, robbed, etc. I have had more problems living in Canada than I ever have in Korea. And so here's one of the famous stories that I always tell to everybody ask me about safety. I always used to have, when I lived in Korea, a spare cell phone. And so this spare cell phone was something I would hand to friends or family when they would come into town for the weekend. And so what would happen here is, in one particular example, I lent it to a friend. We went down to Busan for the weekend. We were from Seoul, and he came with us. We had a great time. He went back to Canada, and I don't know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks passed, and all of a sudden this box shows up in my mailbox. And I thought, what is this? Open it up. I'm looking at the outside, and the return address is the Busan Police Department. And I thought, that's really weird. Why is am I in trouble? Did I do something wrong? Open it up, the cell phone's inside. They searched the IMEI number, found the owner of the phone. The owner of the phone was, of course, me, and they mailed it back to me. No cost, no charge, just again. So when you lose something in Korea, and it's still very much that way now, an example would be, let's suppose that you leave your cell phone on a table inside of a restaurant. One of three things is going to happen. The first one, it's still going to be there 15 minutes later when you come back, only there's going to be another couple or family sitting at that table. So you might have to ask them, can I have my cell phone back? Number two might be something along the lines of it's at the front desk or the cash when they clean the table. Or it could be number three, where they're chasing you down the street and say, oh, you forgot your phone, don't forget your phone. So one of those three things was definitely what's going to end up happening. Or in my case, it could be that it gets mailed back to you if they do figure it out. So yeah, that's a big one. We do have another question here in the chat. You want to take a look at that, Emily?
Yeah. What are some of the best places to visit in Korea? And I think Randy is going to cover part of it for Seoul and Busan. And we do got another questions in the Q&A section. Someone is asking, are the KETA and Q code both mandatory?
So yes, the KETA and the Q code are mandatory. I love that this is coming up again and again throughout the presentation. I think this is really important, so I can key and hit that home. Yes, Q code is mandatory. Yes, KETA is mandatory if you are entering the country. And that's the key there. If you are entering, if you're transiting, meaning not entering, transiting, so just changing airplanes, so to speak, not required. But otherwise, yes, it is.
Yes, and another question comes up is, are there other fees when traveling to Korea, such as departure taxes or hotel environment fees?
Departure taxes, no, there are no departure taxes that are included. What was that second portion of it? Any?
Hotel environment sanitation fees? Like
Not
I think
to my
like those
knowledge.
in Niagara Falls, yeah.
Oh, you're referring to perhaps a DMF, etc.
Yeah.
It depends on where you're visiting within Korea, but it is possible that they are included, but it's again city by city, so it really depends.
And then we have one more question. Yeah. Is Korea safe with the current state of COVID-19?
That's an excellent question. And for those who are really interested in seeing how safe it is, I urge you to go to our Facebook page. Emily will give you a little bit of information about that. We actually have a live tour that is taking place tonight at 9 p.m. And so what you're going to see when you do that live tour is they're actually going to do a tour of a temple, as well as we're going to be looking at a vegan restaurant, a temple restaurant. It's very, very interesting. But you're going to see a lot of people wearing masks outdoors. And so the question there is, Why are they wearing masks outdoors? Well, you see, there's no mandate to be wearing masks outdoors at the moment in Korea. However, there is one to be wearing masks indoors. And so, as such, it's very unusual for North Americans to say, oh, well, I've got to wear a mask inside. But yes, it still very much is one of those. It's all about safety in Korea. Contact tracing is very, very important. Everybody's heard the stories early in the pandemic on how successful Korea was at that control when they were able to. So, things are going very well on that front. So our next question.
Yes. So I think this one is more an agent questions like what makes Korea special when it comes to a stopover, or what set Korea apart from other destinations.
And that's a good one. I understand the need for this type of question because you're looking to try and compare with other destinations. So I'm going to answer this in a variety of different ways because I think it's important that you understand what kind of destination Korea truly is when it comes to selling. First, its location. It really is the perfect stopover based on its location in Northeast Asia. You can see from the map, the top right or in the left-hand corner here, it's got everything from Beijing, a 2-hour flight, if once again that reopens, to Singapore, 6.5 hours. I've met people on fam trips that are transiting through Korea on their way to Australia. This is not unusual. This is something that's quite common. Prior to the flight, which I believe there's a new flight with AC traveling to Asia starting on December the 1st, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, there was only one way to get to Southeast Asia, and that was through a connection in Northeast Asia. So we were the only choices. But one of the best things about Korea is, again, it's all about connections. You're going as far as Asia, depending on where you are in North America. So whether you're East or West Coast, those flights are quite long. So you always want to be selling and upselling your destination. So when I mean selling and upselling, let's suppose that you're choosing or to sell a beautiful destination such as Thailand. Going a long way to Thailand, that's true, but try and mix it in with something a little bit different. You want two destinations slightly different from each other, so you really get that nice comparison between them, and it also gives you that opportunity to upsell on a second commission. So the fact that you get a second commission from it, more money for you, happier client, because clients don't realize sometimes those flights with the stopover is actually less than it would be direct to the destination you're going to. So you could be saving your clients money, or even if they're willing to have to pay a couple $100 more, the fact that they're able to add a second destination makes a big difference for many. So the connection times, you'll notice that I'm saying Canada here, but it's not just Canada, it's all of North America. Connection times are great, and there's so many more than 35 major Asian cities right now within a 3-hour flight. It's just an old stat that I like to bring up from time to time.
And Randy, we got two questions from the chat box about language barrier. And I think this is a really common one, and that's why we covered it for our fifth question is how's people's level of language there, and will there be any barriers for them if they don't speak Korean?
That's a good one.
That's a very good one. So we get this type of question quite a bit from agents, from consumers, from the entire industry will be asking questions along this line. And that's a very good question that I really want to cover in detail for you today. So we've got a lot of support available, but let's start with the basis of the language. In Seoul and the surrounding area, yes, you will find a lot of English throughout everywhere that you go on your daily life. Whether or not you speak Korean makes no difference. You'll be able to get from A to B with no problems. An example of such will be your subway maps. Everything will be color coded. They will be written in English, Chinese, Japanese, and of course in Korean. The subway stations are all numbered so you can find your way around. Let's suppose that I'm on the blue line and I need to get to the orange line. So what will end up happening for the blue line to the orange line? I just follow the orange marker that's on the side of the wall and I follow it down. It's a very easy system to get around. Very, very simple. So that's a really, really important one. When you start to move beyond the provinces or into the smaller areas, it can be a little bit challenging, but that's where I want to bring in that support and your need as a travel professional. Two reasons. One, if your client is by themselves and it's late in the evening and they're looking to go and try and do something, we've always got a language support and travel information service. And what I mean by language support is like a travel interpreter that you can simply pick up the phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's 1330. Very, very easy. And so I would say actually a simple question like, how do I say I want to go to the local I don't know, grocery store in Korean. And so they would repeat that for me on the phone a couple times. I would probably give up, and then I would pass the phone to the taxi driver and he'd understand right away and take it. Or I can just put it on speakerphone. There's another option for you too. So there's a lot of ways to get around the country very simply on your own without having to worry too much. The basis of the language, yes, very much like French is taught in Canada, Spanish in the United States, there is a basis, and it starts in grade 1. So the majority of Koreans, yes, do speak a certain level of English. That I find that younger generation is speaking much better than the older generation because they've just been learning and it's been pushed into them more and more and more. So it really depends on the age of the person, I find. But absolutely, yes, your clients are not going to have any trouble getting around. Now, why is it important for travel professionals? Here's the thing. If you're moving beyond Seoul and you're looking to get out, you're going to miss a lot if you're not being escorted by a guide. And how do you make sure that you've got proper guides, etc.? By making sure that you are, or a travel professional has booked your tickets for you. A travel professional has made sure that you have a proper package ready to go for you. So yes, very, very important.
Okay, before moving to the next slide, we got some questions in the chat box. So, which of the tourist company is the best when you get to Korea? I think Jenna is referring to land operator, right? It's in the chat box, and yeah, I think she's referring to land operators, like for
Land
tourists.
operators. So if you're looking for land operators, we don't make recommendations of one over another. What we do is we'll group all of the land operators in the entire country, and we'll use the ones that our head office uses and that we use together for the North American market, and we'll provide you with a list of land operators. But we can't recommend one over the other. That would be favoritism. It's just not allowed. But they're all good. I've had experiences with every one of the ones that are on there. I wouldn't say that we recommend them. This is just our short list. There are others that are not on that list. And the reason simply for that is our head office and ourselves don't normally work with them. But recommending from that list one over the other is not, unfortunately, not something that we can do. What we do recommend, though, is you work with these trade and tour operators that work here in North America. And the reason for that, as travel professionals out there, is because you gain yourself a reputation with that particular tour operator, and then you have opportunities towards fam trips. And I think that that's really important, because if you're going direct to the land operator, it's not often that a land operator, at least in Korea, that will run their own fam trips. However, a tour operator in Canada will. And so that makes things a little bit easier on them to identify who's selling the destination, who needs a fam, and who doesn't.
Okay, and we still got some more questions in the chat box. And
Absolutely.
which season or month is best to visit Korea to avoid winter season? And I guess, Randy, you just covered like Korea is a four-season destination, and it really depends on what you're looking for a trip. Like if you're more like want to go to the water activities or sea activities, then for sure go in the summer. But autumn and spring is also a good time for you to go. And then, are cities safe for the visitors, considering high crime rate in most countries?
So yeah, Korea has a very safe very safe country to visit. And does it have a high crime rate? No, it does not. Like I said, I've had more problems in Canada than I ever have in Korea, and Canada is considered to be an extremely safe country when you look at it internationally. So yes, I don't believe that's going to be a factor when it comes to that. But that stat I was mentioning before, number 9 in terms of safety for world-ranked safe cities, or I should say countries as well. Just that's Seoul, the capital. So of course you're just moving even safer as you move into the surrounding area.
And we got one interesting question, like how can one get Korean citizenship and how long does it take? But I think this one, it really depends on what kind of visa are you applying to Korea, or Randy, do you have some more add-on for this one? Because I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, it's time for them to contact their local consulate or embassy. That's not something we do. Unfortunately, we can only help you when it comes to information about your tourism visa. So I recommend that you take a look. And when I say tourism visa, that's if you require one. So I recommend you reach out to your local consulate or embassy. They'd be able to help you with that.
Yes. So the next question we get is, where can I exchange money for the Korean won? I know we can do it in the Canadian bank here or at the Incheon airport, but where do you recommend to get the best exchange rate?
So that's a great one. And absolutely, I understand that question. We get that a lot from agents because they want to make sure, or I should travel professionals, because they want to make sure that their clients are getting the best possible rates for it. So from worst to best, in my experience, here's how it works. Your local bank, whether that be in Toronto, Vancouver, New York, Washington, does not matter. That is going to be your worst rate, at least in my experience. They have to special money order that in from time to time. So that's another, again, issue for a lot of Canadians and Americans, that they have to special order money in. So what I find best to do is, upon arrival at Incheon International Airport, either once you've moved into the terminal or right after you pass through customs, before you go through those magical doors and you have somebody holding a sign saying, "Randy, I'm here. Come with us. We're ready to take you on your tour." There is a few different exchange counters. Go to one of those exchange counters and exchange Canadian dollars directly. Again, doesn't have to be you holding American dollars. Can be Canadian dollars directly or US dollars directly. It's your choice. So you can exchange both of those over without any issues. So yeah, that's usually the best. That's number two. Number three would, of course, be money changers. They're always very, very good, but they're hard to find. That's the thing. And so my go-to is always $50 in the airport, maybe 100 just to carry me over, leading to the best rates that usually are easy to find, not the money changers, of course, would be any bank in Korea. Just make sure that you have your passport with you. And here's the danger with that one. You go out in the morning, you're about to start your tour, and you think, oh, I got to bring my passport. Now you got to carry your passport the rest of the day. That's not always a good thing, because I'm sure all you travel professionals have been out on a fam with someone who's lost their passport, one, or have escorted a tour where some client has lost their passport. So it's never a good thing bringing it out. Remember, they do have standard banking hours as well. That's a really, really important one. So yeah, I would say make sure that you've got at least a little bit of money before you enter into, or once you've entered in the country, a couple $100, maybe 50, 100, something along those lines, and then make sure that you hit a bank before you get too far into your trip, so you're not running out. And so usually for me, that would be one of the Korean local banks. There are lots in Seoul and surrounding area that would be able to make us exchange directly from Canadian or US dollars into Korean won.
Okay, so I think Randy, you just covered our sixth question, and we can jump to the seventh one. Yes, and this one I think I got more than 5 inquiries about is Korea friendly, like vegetarian friendly country, because many travel professionals have clients with special dietary needs. So do you have any advice for Korea, like how does it work in Korea for vegetarian or non-vegetarian as well?
So I'm going to cover today vegetarian, vegan, and then of course I'm going to cover special dietary needs. Perhaps there's an allergy, and I'm going to start with that one. I think that's probably the best one to start with. So this works for any destination, and I would highly advise that any of their travel professionals listening in today give their clients this piece of advice. If you have a client who has a dietary restriction, a need, an allergy, something, one of the best things to do is go to the hotel lobby, get a business card from the hotel for two purposes. But first, flip it over and write in English, I have, and I'm going to say seafood allergy. I have a seafood allergy. Get the front desk staff to write in Korean, I have a seafood allergy, right on the back. And that works in every destination. That way, it makes it easy when you go to a restaurant to ensure that you're not going to get food that's tainted and you end up being ill. That's really, really important. But again, like I said, it works in every destination. But why a card from the hotel? Also, if you do happen to get lost and you want to take a taxi home, because somebody was asking about taxis earlier, yes, taxis are available in Korea, of course, but a third the cost of what you would experience here in North America. You just show them that business card, because there could be multiple hotels with the same name. And an example of which would be there was a Ramada once. There's two Ramadas in Seoul, both of them downtown too, or when I want to say downtown, in a certain area. And so that makes it difficult, because which Ramada is it? Well, I've got the business card. I know exactly which one it is. I show it to the taxi driver. He knows where he's going. So that makes things very, very easy. The next one is vegetarian and vegan food. Yes, very easy to get vegetarian food, very easy to get vegan food as well. There are a number of restaurants. It's become more of a fashionable thing. And that's what I want to say about today. Today is a very special day, because again, we are going to be running on our KTO Canada Facebook page, Facebook Live tonight at 9 p.m. We're going to be doing a brief tour of Chogyesa Temple. So Choge Temple, this is a very nice little temple. We'll do about a 7-8 minute tour of that. Then we're going to head over to Paru Gongyang, which is a vegetarian vegan restaurant. And there's a reason I'm mentioning both. You'll find out tonight for that one. But this is actually run by the Buddhist Authority in Korea, and it's a very fine dining, very nice place to check out. Very, very different. Just the food, it looks looks like it should be part of a watercolor painting. Is simply amazing. So that's another one for you. So what are some of the other ones that come up near dietary needs? Allergies. Is it a problem? No, typically. Once a Korean, it used to be many, many years ago that people would say, oh, you'll be fine, don't worry about it. And I've heard stories about that, but no, allergies are taken seriously. It's fairly common practice nowadays to have somebody, especially a tourist, that will come in and say, I have an allergy to something. Can you ensure that it's not in my meal? Just make sure that it's written so that there's no misunderstandings. It's written on the front, because there's nothing worse than you saying, I want no seafood, and they put extra seafood just for you.
You have a question?
Yes, I think I have some more add-on for the taxi and Uber part. Yeah, Uber is available in Korea, and apart from taxi or Uber, actually they do have KakaoTalk Taxi as well. Because most of the taxis out there are under KakaoTalk Taxi. So if you're going to Korea, maybe you can download the application called KakaoTalk, and then you can do the taxi ordering over there, and it's really fast. Because when I was in Korea in June this year, I used the KakaoTalk Taxi, and I think the taxi just came here within 5 minutes after I placed the order. So I think it's a really good application for you to download, like KakaoTalk. I can type it in the chat, KakaoTalk, and then this one is a really good one for you to download first before going to Korea.
Now, we do have a question from Anita. Anita is asking about medical professionals. If you do have a client that has an issue, do medical professionals speak English? Do they converse in English? And the answer to that is yes, of course they do. You'll find that a large number of Korean doctors were actually trained overseas and moved back to Korea. I don't know how many different doctors I had over the years that, of course, spoke fluent English without any issues whatsoever. It was funny. Sometimes they would still request, and I always wonder why. Maybe they just want to make their staff speak English. They would speak in Korean to their staff would translate back to me, and then I found out later I would hear him on the phone with his son or with his daughter, accentless. I mean, 100% sounds like an American or a Canadian, and it was great. So I wonder if they just said that for training for their staff. But yes, you will not have a problem discussing any medical needs with medical staff in English while visiting Korea.
And we got a question from Lydia, like, these days many young teens are keen on K-pop. Which part of Seoul should we suggest clients to go? I think it really depends on which K-pop idol you're looking for. If you're a BTS fan, then for sure you would like to go to the Hype BTS Museum, but make sure you make the reservation first because they are always fully booked. And I tried to go once by myself, but it doesn't work out because I didn't make the reservation. But it's really easy to do it, and you just need to check in online. And I think the entrance fee is around $20 in USD dollars, but I'm not sure if they're going to raise the fee next year. So I think the best way to go for is to check online as well. So for my recommendation for K-pop, it really depends on which K-pop idols you're looking for. And for Blackpink, for sure, go to the YG building and make the reservations to go into their museum as well.
All right, time for our next question.
And for the next question, Randy, you always say like resell resell memories, but not only service. So what kind of unique experience can we have in Korea to create great memories for the clients?
Okay, well, I've got a few to talk about today. Our first one is, of course, the hanbok wearing experience. This is a very popular one. I know that a lot of Canadian tour operators, and they also, these are the same ones that sell to the US too, they offer a hanbok wearing experience. So these are available all outside many of the major palaces. And so the whole idea is traditional Korean clothing. You get a chance to try on traditional Korean clothing. You can dress up as the king, you can dress up as the queen, you can dress up as a servant, you can dress up. Oh, it's a lot of fun. There's so many different outfits that you can wear, different colors, etc. But one of the best things about it is if you are wearing a hanbok, so traditional Korean clothing, you are granted free access to the 5 major palaces of Seoul. So they're rented on an hourly basis, and they're all around the outsides of the major palaces that are there. So this is an excellent experience, and you don't even have to be entering the palace, but it's a great photo shoot. It's a great group shot. It's great for families. This is something that truly will create some memories. And again, that's what I always said, like Emily was saying, what we do is we sell memories. And so that's a great one to have, especially for the photos. For that younger demographic, people were asking about, so there was a K-pop question earlier. Here's a great one too, the K-pop star singing contest. So they will actually give you advice on how to sing like a K-pop star. You get to take your own recording home with you. You do sing a song, and so you get it on video and you get it on DVD to take home with you, which is great. They'll email you a copy of it if you'd like as well. But this is something that's certainly experience. And you can even upgrade that experience, of course, with clothing, with makeup, with hair, with there's always upgrades available to it. So there's some fun ones there. Like I said, Korea has something really for everyone. Traditional rice wine making, that's another class you can do. You can do a soju tasting class, which is another type of liquor. You can do kimchi making classes where you get to learn how to make kimchi. They will offer to let you bring it home, and I have brought kimchi home many a times. However, you have to be really careful that it does not explode on your way home, because remember, it's fermentation, and fermentation, what does that do? It expands. So you have to be really careful with that one. Cooking classes are a very common one. Some of the other ones that we've had that are really famous were the soapstone stamps. So you would carve your name in Hangul, so the traditional Korean writing system, and you would carve your name into, so for me it would be Lendi, and you would write it and you would stamp it. You could use it as a stamp for a legal document, so to speak. So that's something else that would be a lot of fun. So that's something you can do at the National Museum. There are so many different and unique experiences that are available. So I urge you travel professionals out there, when you are booking Korea, make sure that you include at least one, always more than one if you can, but at least one unique experience so your clients are really going to remember the destination. And most importantly, remember the destination that you sold them. So that's a good one.
Randy, you're missing the most important one. The one you always talk about. Yeah.
There it is. Yes. So this one, the Haenyeo. This is a fun one. This is only available off the southern coast, so on an island called Jeju. And so traditionally it's the men originally that started, and then it had to be the women who took this over, which was diving for sea urchin. And why do you say that it was the women and not the men? I mean, the men, they are able to do this, are they not? Well, yes, they are able to do it, but they would disappear based on wars. They would disappear based on being lost at sea. There were so many different reasons that they would disappear. And so it was the women who had to actually go and support the economy, support the families. So it is traditionally the women of Jeju who go and do this. Now, the average age of these women is around 72 years old. There are only 3,000 of them left on the island, a little bit less than that now. And originally we're looking in the 40,000s when we're talking about the early 90s. So the population of them, it really dwindled. A lot of government support there to try and make sure that these practices are up and kept. And so what is the unique experience, you probably asked? The ability to go diving with them. Now, they do not speak English. They speak a very, very thick Jeju dialect. And so a lot of the time the guide will get in the water with you in order to try and translate, even for many Koreans, because they have trouble understanding what is actually being said. So this is a really, really important one. And we have a comment here from Hilda that's talking about read Lisa C's book on the women Haenyeo. That's exactly right. They made it into a TV show. That's right. There are a lot of books written on them as well, but it's certainly a fantastic experience, and it really is not expensive. You're looking at roughly, I want to say $25 to $30 US, depending on where you're booking it and how you're booking it. But it is certainly an experience worth visiting. So you go diving with them. They show you their ways. You have to dress up just as they are, and it's skin diving. So what's interesting about it is they can hold their breath for up to 2 minutes, dive up to 10 meters at a time. And they used to do this 10 months a year. Now, this is more of a modern look. If you go back a couple hundred years, they're dressed in just simply cotton robes, so to speak, because again, they didn't have modern wetsuits like today. So very, very different way of life, that's for sure. Once they've taught you how to dive in their way of diving, what they'll do is they'll bring you back to their home camp, home base, etc. Everybody go rinse off, and then you go and put your catch for the day on the table, and they'll crack it open. They'll have fresh seafood right there with you. You'll have a little bit of water, of course, because you're going to be parched from all that swimming, and then you get the chance to ask them questions about their lives and the hardships, etc., that they've been through. It's a very, very interesting story.
Randy, when we're talking about Korea, we usually talk about like, oh, Korea is famous for hanbok and Gyeongbokgung Palace, things like that. So can you name one hidden gem that are not often talked about Korea?
The hidden gems. Okay. I think we got to pick in on this one. This isn't really a hidden gem. It's a gem hidden in public, so to speak. Everybody's going to look and, oh, that's meat on the grill. Yes, it's Korean barbecue. I'm finding that so many people nowadays are visiting Korea and missing out on one of the best hidden in plain sight. Oh, I've had Korean barbecue before. I can get it in Toronto. I can get it in New York. Yeah, you can get it, but it's not authentic. I assure you. I don't know how many times I've been to an all-you-can-eat place. They don't do that in Korea. I don't know how many times I've been to they'll bring chicken over. Chicken is not put on the grill, not like this. It's not the same. It truly isn't an authentic experience. And so I urge you, put back in that barbecue dinner that your clients are looking for. I think it'll make a big difference. And I think you really, your clients will appreciate it for you. And again, it's well worth it. Just the experience on its own. It's always something that people are asking about. So this is something that is hidden in plain sight, so to speak.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, good. I think we got one question from Christina about, do we need to give tipping when we're in a restaurant? So do you have any tips for us?
That's a great one. So we do have questions that come up about tipping and about taxes. So the price you see in Korea truly is the price you pay. So if it says 4,000 won, meaning $4 Canadian, $4 US, then that is the price, 4,000. If you're in a restaurant, the same thing. Tipping is not part of the culture. I mean, yes, you do tip when it comes to your guide and your driver. Should you be part of a group tour or you're getting a private tour, something like that, absolutely. That's something that's important. I understand that. But when it comes to anything else in Korean culture, Korean society, no, the price you see is the price you pay. There's only one exception to that, and it's very rare that I do see this. This would be in, for example, your upper class hotels. So for example, your Four Seasons, maybe your Conrad, your Fairmont, etc. In the hotel restaurant, there may be a little asterisk down the bottom says VAT not included, and the VAT in Korea is 10%. But otherwise, the price you see is the price you pay.
Okay, and we got some more questions here. Can the travel agency you're using organize for you the Uber, the hotel, and any other thing? Yes, they can do it for you. But if you're like helping your clients to book for your tickets and they're like individual travelers, the FIT one, then for sure you can recommend them to use Uber or like Kakao Taxi and things like that. So it's more like a tips for your clients to go to Korea on their own. Yes. And moving on to our next question. Where do you recommend going in Seoul and Busan? And I think this one is more like a question for the first time visitor to Korea because Seoul and Busan will be the biggest two cities in Korea.
So yeah, very common route. First time visitors to Korea, they'll do Seoul only or perhaps Seoul, Busan. Sometimes they'll even do a Seoul, Busan, Jeju extension, which is always nice. So here's some of the top things that I recommend doing when you're doing Seoul and Busan. First, you're going to want to visit a palace. Now, there are 5 palaces in Seoul. Make sure that you visit at least one, sometimes 2. If you're really a history buff, that's fine. But if there's the one that I would go and visit, it's going to be Gyeongbok Palace. And the reason for that is this is where you're going to see the changing of the guard. It's the largest of the 5 palaces. But it is not the UNESCO World Heritage Site. The reason, again, is it's been rebuilt, reconstructed many times over the years, but it's certainly a place that you want to visit. You want free entry? Remember, the traditional Korean clothing. That's what you want to go do, and it's all the way around the outside. There are so many places that are within walking distance. There's an old Hanok village that's within walking distance of here. The Blue House, the Korean equivalent of the White House, is actually within walking distance of here. There's so many different things in and around this area. It's well worth a visit. You could easily spend a day, no problem, doing this particular area of the city. So this is a great one to go and visit. So I would say Gyeongbokgung is a must. Another one that we've got is Cheongdok Palace. This is the UNESCO World Heritage Palace. Now, I do warn you, travel professionals, it's really important that you're involved in this one simply because you want to make sure that you're booking your client a guide for this. The only way that you can get into the secret garden in the back is via an escorted tour. That's really important. They have certain times that those escorted tours take place, so that's also very important. Remember, certain times. So you want to make sure that you're hitting those particular times. And so again, how are you doing that? You're reaching out to a tour operator. If you are a tour operator, you've already reached out to your land operator and you're part of that. But you're trying to do this on your own, very difficult. So it's a nice tour, mind you, if you're just doing the interior of the palace. But if you actually want to see the secret garden, again, part of an escorted tour, very important. Insadong is where that little piece of Korea you're going to bring home. It's where people typically find that handmade, hand-painted hand fan, or perhaps the little modern, I don't know, that trinket they want to bring home. You know, everybody's a little souvenir that they bring back from whatever destination. Typically, this is where people find it. There are, of course, other markets in Seoul where you can go, but this is the one, if you're looking for one place that pretty much guaranteed to have what you're looking for, this is where a lot of people find it. DMZ for me is a big one. I love going to the DMZ because I love seeing how things have changed. A lot of people don't know this, but up until the late 1970s, actually, North Korea was more advanced than South Korea in just about every single way. And so you can see how far Korea's come. Remember, we're in 2022, right? In such a little amount of time. And you can see that beginning point through the tours that when you go through the DMZ, because you learn about the war, and that is basically starting with year 0. So here's that 38th parallel. You're going all the way across the military demarcation line of the DMZ. Those are some of the infiltration tunnels that were dug throughout the Korean War. You get to go and visit some of these. One of the neat things about the tour, of course, is these blue houses that you see. The one on the left-hand side, you can actually walk into, and the guide will get you in there. And there's a whole bunch of people that go into the group, of course, that will go into this room. And then the guide will say, okay, anybody who's on the north side of this particular, and there's a microphone on the table. On the north side of this microphone, you're now standing in North Korea, which is a really fun thing to see. Traveler's tip for this one, really, really important. No ripped jeans. No ripped jeans, no spaghetti strap tank tops, no open-toed sandals. Yeah, all of these. Dress like you're visiting your mother-in-law for the very first time. And the reason for that is, this is really important. Very conservative. The North will take pictures and then spin it around and say, look at those poor Americans. Look at those poor Canadians. The government can't afford to feed or clothe them properly. Look at the holes in their jeans. Look how poor they are. Again, you don't want that. So they won't even let you on the tour, and that's the case. Dress very conservatively. I'm not saying dress in a suit by any means, but do make sure you're wearing long pants, etc. I always wear a shirt with a collar. Again, it's really important that you make an impression on this one, and they will give you some warnings on that as well. We're going to move on to Busan, the second largest city. So this is the beach. This is the most famous beach in Korea, right outside the Grand Hotel, right near, oh, there's so much to do in this particular area. There's a boardwalk along the back, all kinds of cafes, restaurants, so much to do in the area. There's the largest seafood market in Korea is actually right not too far from here. This is a must-see, even if you don't eat seafood. And I met so many people on fam trips who say, oh, Randy, I don't eat seafood. That's okay. Go anyway, just the same. Go anyway. You'll love it just to see the different types of seafood, because I would say 50% of the stuff I've never seen anywhere else in North America. And so it's just so unique. And of course, if you are a seafood lover, stop for lunch in here, because they've all on these, the larger buildings, a lot of them on the second floor, they have all you can eat buffets, which are a lot of fun. So these are great places to go, a must visit when you're going to Busan. The Kamsan Culture Village is another big one, all little cafes and shops, all different colors. This is some of the surviving remnants after the Korean War. Actually, Busan was one of the only major cities that was not destroyed during the Korean War. So some of these buildings are pre-Korean War. There's lots to see in this particular area. It's great to go and people watch in here, check out some of those little shops, those boutiques and whatnot. A lot of fun and great photo spots too. Taejongdae Monument of Busan, again, there's a great little temple in this particular area that sits seaside as well, which is really neat. So again, a temple, seaside. Yeah, there's lots of neat stuff in Busan in and around the area. So we've got a question here. Randy, what is the best airline to go to Korea? Greg, I can't tell you that one. That's a secret. I'm just kidding. Every airline is a good airline. There's only 2 that fly from Canada at the moment. Of course, that is Korean Air and Air Canada. From the US, you do have Delta. I think United flies. I'm not really sure. I'm not too familiar, but if you're looking for contacts for our US office, happy to provide those at the end of the conversation. That's not a problem. And there is another question here about markets, because we were talking about Insadong. Mona was asking, do markets take credit cards or just cash? It really depends. The larger the market and the bigger the purchase, no problem, they'll take a credit card, especially a foreign credit card. But if you're talking about, $5 here, $3 there, $7 here, the commissions that credit cards charge to the vendors is very, very expensive. And so what will end up happening is, if you say you want to pay by credit card for 5,000 won, a $5 item, they might actually try and charge you 8, just so you can use the credit card so they can pay the fees on that. So always have cash on hand, especially when going to markets, because you never know. I wouldn't expect a cash discount by any means, but what I do mean by that is they just may not accept the credit card, or they may charge you more than the list price just so they can pay the fees on it.
And I think for our upcoming question is kindly covered in the very beginning. I think most of our travel professionals today would like to know more about the free transit tour, because we paused the tours during the pandemic, so it will be coming back next year.
There are all the different transit tours that are available. There are 5 different tours that are available in the 2022 or 2019 was the last time they were available. In 2023, they're planning on releasing their new list of itineraries, and that'll be in January, but they're not available as of yet. So just Google search Incheon International Airport's website in Google, and you'll be able to find a list of all the different transit tours that are available early next year. But this is an important one, great for taking a look at all the different options that Korea has for somebody who's got 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, etc. But as Emily was saying earlier, you want to make sure that there's a little bit of a buffer before and after, simply so that your client, if they are doing a transit, let's suppose that they have a 5-hour transit in total, you're not going to put them on a 5-hour transit tour. You're going to put them maybe a 1 or 2 hour transit tour, because you got to remember that they need to clear customs and immigration on the way out. They need clear customs and immigration on the way back in. So that's 3 hours lost, an hour and a half in, hour and a half out, ballpark. You've got 2 hours left. So really be mindful of the time on this one, but absolutely do it. It is well worth it.
So what should I do if I have questions about Korea, Randy?
Well, step 1 would be me. Step 2 would be you. That's an easy one. We get a lot of questions about this, but we've got some people from the US that are with us today, and so I think I'm going to cover that one as well. We do have an office in LA. There's a woman named Esther that you're going to want to deal with, so give Esther a call. She'd be happy to help you. She's the B2B sales representative down there. And then in New York, we have Patrice, again, New York office of the Korea Tourism Organization. She'll be able to answer any East Coast questions. So West Coast and East Coast. Anybody that's up here in Canada, again, it'd be Emily or myself. Here's our contact information. It's on the front.
And I think for our next question, someone asked during the presentation, and how do I get on a KTO FAM? And I think this one is a really important one, because our travel professionals would really love to go to Korea to get a taste of what Korea like before selling Korea to the clients. So how can they get on the KTO FAM?
So we've got a few different options for you. We're going to start first with our travel agent specialist program. So this is for all travel professionals out there, whether you're a tour operator, whether you are anybody in the industry, really. If you are a travel specialist, we always have a program going to Korea, and that started as of this year. We give it away as a prize, complete it between this date and this date, and we'll be doing the same thing next year for those who have entered. We'll also do something along the lines of somebody who already is a travel specialist. What we'll say is join us to or recertify, or I don't know, there'll be some component that will allow you to enter into be winning a seat on our next FAM. And those FAMs are specific for travel specialists. Those are really, really important for us as well, because remember, the more you sell, the better we do as well. So that's really important. But it's not just us that runs them. We also have tour operators in Canada and the United States that run their own FAM trips. So this is a really important one for you as well. If you're selling Asia, let your tour operators know that you are selling Asia and that you are interested in a FAM to Korea, and they'll be able to help it. We see Juliet, that's great. She says, I did the Korea Specialist Program. Good for you. That's excellent. I'm glad to hear that.
And do we offer marketing support for packages? I know some of the travel professionals do create their own packages. So do we support them, or how does it work?
So this is going to be new starting next year. We're hoping to be able to support travel professionals as well, not just tour operators in the industry that are looking to market. So typically the way it works in the market is we would work with you on advertising a Korea product. So if you're interested in advertising a Korea product, give us a call. Our contact information will be at the end of the presentation. We put it up a little bit earlier as well. Reach out to the US counterparts, our US New York office and our US LA office, depending on whether you're East Coast or West Coast. Here's some examples of some of the things that we've done in the past for a lot of them. So we've done everything from stopover programs. It's not just the English market, it'd be the Chinese market in Canada as well. These are just some Canadian examples, but of course we do it in the United States too.
And moving on to the next question, do we support a special interest group like the SIT Travel?
So SIT, that's a good one. SIT. I'll give you an example of a bike tour group that we worked with in 2019. Very, very successful. They had 2 different groups running back to back, roughly 60 people that were doing a cycling tour of Korea. Very unique way to do it. And we did have some support for them. We did 2 dinners during and these were completely hosted by KTO. So we do up to this 2022 year's support is actually $100 per person. That may change for the 2023 period, but again, there is support available for those special interest tours. So what we mean by special interest tours is, for example, you've got a church group that's going. They're all from a church, or perhaps you've got a bike tour going, or maybe there's a sports team, a hockey team. I know for Korea, it's possible. A soccer team. There's so many different options out there. But if you've got a reason that this group is traveling together and they're going to Korea, reach out to us. We want to see if we can find a way to support you.
And I think one more example will be the K-pop group, because I know people will be like joining the tour and then go to Korea just for one concert, not only for BTS, but for other local K-pop idols as well. So if you have groups traveling for all these special interest travel purposes, please reach out to us. Yeah. And moving on to our last question today, why should I sell Korea? And I think this is the most important one.
So why should you sell Korea? Plain and simply, Korea is an easy upsell. It really is, especially when you're selling other parts of Asia. If you're not used to selling Korea, go and take the specialist course, and you'll get a better idea of how to sell the destination. But a lot of people don't think about the fact that Korea is available as an upsell. It's a great upsell for Southeast Asia. Clients will save money a lot of the time just based on the airfare alone. Even if they don't, which is not all cases, it is well worth it just based on so much that's available that's out there. The unique experiences is a big one as well. That's why you should be selling it. And remember, we're selling memories. It's not your standard package. Korea offers so many unique things to do in one small little area. So we're going to close there because I know that there's a couple questions and I've already seen one of them. I do want to address it before everybody goes today. We were asking about the gift cards. We have a question from Derby. What type of gift card is it and how will the recording be sent? Well, Derby, the answer for that one is the gift card, if I'm not mistaken, Emily, is a Starbucks card. Is that right? Yep, it's a Starbucks card. There we go. So it is a Starbucks card. And how will the recording be sent? Actually, for everybody who attended today and to those who registered, it will go out via the Baxter system. Zephan, you want to cover that one for them?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Randy. So the recording will be sent within about 24 hours, and you'll get it in an email. I'll just send an email to everybody, so you will get a link to the recording, and you can rewatch all this great content. So.
And we know some of the contents or the questions are not covered today in the Q&A section or in the chat room. So if you have any questions, please feel free to send us an email. Either Randy or myself would be good.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for your time today. Really appreciate it. I know that, like Emily said, if there are any questions, do send us an email. I see one right away that would be a great one. I would love to cover it via email, but just because it requires a little bit more time and more effort to look into, like halal and kosher meals. That's a great one too. But send us those questions. We're happy to help, and I can't wait to do the next one.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Well, thank you so much, Randy and Emily. Your time has been much appreciated. These two are total pros. You can tell that their passion and their knowledge comes out in their presentation. So thank you so much. Yeah, you're getting lots of thank yous in the chat. So hope you feel warm about that. And yeah, keep the thank yous coming. This has been a great webinar. So thank you to Randy and Emily. Really appreciate your time and appreciate this presentation. Right after this webinar, you will be redirected to the Korea Tourism Organization's website, where you can subscribe to their e-newsletter and receive updates from them. And before we go, just a reminder to subscribe to Baxter Media's publications for all your industry news. You can subscribe at travelpress.com/subscribe by clicking the link at the top of your chat box. You'll see it in blue there, so feel free to click on that if you're not already subscribed. And also check out our Baxter Media LinkedIn page. It's a great way to hear about what we're doing. And like right now, for example, we've got a World Cup event going on in Toronto, which is super fun. It's been great to see and watch some games together. So yeah, you can find out more about that there. And yeah, and you'll hear about upcoming webinars as well on our LinkedIn page. So once again, prize winners will be contacted to arrange the $10 gift card. You'll be contacted directly by Randy and Emily about that over the next few weeks if you are one of the 100 winners who stayed on for the whole time. So thank you for being here. To everyone who stayed on for the whole time, really appreciate it. We'll be sending the webinar recording link to each of you within about 24 hours. All of our past webinar recordings can also be found on Baxter Media's YouTube channel or at travelpress.com under the Agent Education tab. So feel free to check out past recordings there, and you'll be able to find this one within about 24 hours there as well. So I think that about wraps it up. Big thank you again to Randy and Emily. Really appreciate their time, and thank you all for being here. We hope to see you next time, and have a great rest of your day.